the original Transformers movie is the best one, and that's bad. Firstly, I am a fan of the G1 Transformers series, and the movie. Pretty sure I wore out the VCR from playing it, but that's not to say that I'm blind to its faults. But before we cover that, a bit of background is needed. Brief plug. Creating this content takes time, so if you would follow my TikTok, subscribe to my YouTube, or consider checking out my Patreon. Thank you. My opinion will be broken down into three main parts: the context and pre-film, the movie synopsis, and my reasoning. Part 1, the context in seasons 1 and 2. Now, the original series was an 80s cartoon, meaning that thanks to President Reagan's Deregulation of Advertising Act, TV advertisement exploded. Shows such as E-Man, My Little Pony, Rubik, The Amazing Cube, and yes, Transformers were advertising disguised as Saturday morning cartoons. Hasbro, the company that currently owns Transformers, didn't create the idea for the show. It would be thanks to Henry Kornstein, who convinced Takaratoys, now takaratomy, that their Diaclone and Microkeen transforming toys would be perfect for the USA market. Hasbro would then go to Marvel to create the lore behind the toys. So James Shooter and Dennis O'Neil created the rough outline. Hasbro rejected many of the ideas, so it was up to Marvel's Bob Budiansky to refine it to something Hasbro was fine with. Mr. Budiansky was in charge of character names and bios during the original series run. On the 17th of September, 1984, the original series aired. Produced by Marvel Productions and Sunbow Production, while being animated by the Japanese Toei Animation and the South Korean Hocom Productions for remainder of the third and fourth season. Altogether, the series had 98 episodes, with them being divided into 4 seasons. Season 1 and 2 would debut before the 1986 film, with the third and fourth taking place after. I'll be covering a bit of the plot before covering the movie for clarity. Disclaimer: the timeline is pretty messy, so I'll try my best. Now, the robotic characters are divided into 2 camps, Autobots and Decepticons. The Autobots' ancestors were originally laborers built by the Quintessence to work on the planet of Cybertron, while the Decepticons' ancestors were the military and security forces. If the Quintessence created or conquered the planet is unknown. Having total control of the planet, the Quintessence began to entertain themselves with gladiatorial death matches. Eventually, a laborer robot discovered an item known as the Matrix of Leadership. It grants them true sentience and allows them to rebel, sparking the first Cybertronian War, which ended with the Quintessence fleeing the planet. About 2 million years after the start of the rebellion, the military robots decided that they should be in charge. Outgunned, the Autobots' leader, Sentinel Prime, decided that subterfuge would be needed. This started the Transformers, as the new generations had the ability to transform, separating them from the simple laborers that the Quintessence had built. The second Cybertronian War would end with the Autobots winning in the golden era for Cybertron. The third Cybertronian War would start when the Decepticons created transforming robots as well. Of the first Decepticon Transformers, Megatron would rally or convert many to his side. He would quietly execute Sentinel Prime. Eventually, an Autobot dock worker Orion Pax and a laborer Ariel were caught in a Decepticon energy raid. Heavily damaged, one of the original Autobots, A3 Alpha Trion, would rebuild them into the first generation of battle-hardy Autobots. Orion Pax, now Optimus Prime, would take the Matrix of Leadership and lead the Autobots during the Third Cybertronian War. 5 million years of constant war would drain the planet of its energy, called Energon, which both sides needed to survive. So, the Autobots would board the Ark ship and seek out alternative energy sources. The Decepticons would pursue, leading to both sides crashing on Earth, where they'd be in stasis for 4 million years. The mountain erupting would reactivate the ship and lead to the start of the original series. The first two seasons take place in 1984 to 1985 and see the Decepticons attacking human energy stations to create Energon, while the Autobots stop them and use renewable sources to produce their Energon. This was during the energy crisis of the 1980s, so the parallels are clear. After the second season, the movie takes place. And it is incredible. Spoilers for an almost 40-year-old movie. Part 2, the movie, summarized. Watch the original movie. Now the first thing we see is a meta world of robotics. Everything is calm and peaceful. Then the shaking begins. Glass shatters and walls start to crumble as a metal moon descends. Its massive horns sink into the planet like a predator catching its prey. The red glow envelops the planet as the mouth of the structure opens, devouring robot and rebel alike. By the time the monster is done, the planet is gone and it's moving on to find more prey. And that's how they open the movie. The film being a continuation of the animated series for 8 and 12-year-olds, and the movie starts with the almost complete extinction of a planet. After we cut to the future, the year is 2005 and the Autobots are building weapons on two of Cybertron's moons, waiting to reclaim their planet. Optimus orders Ironhide and several others to head to Earth to resupply on Energon. Ironhide wants direct action, but Optimus knows that their situation is precarious. Once the ship is out of sight, a crew of Decepticons attack. It's a complete slaughter as Brawn has a hole blown through his shoulder. Prowl is shot through the lung, causing orange smoke to leak from his eyes and mouth. Ratchet and Ironhide taking multiple chest shots. Every Autobot aboard is executed, with the barely surviving Ironhide trying to stop Megatron, before taking a point-blank shot from Megatron's arm cannon. There's a reason all of them died and it extends beyond the plot. But I'll cover it in part 3. The damaged ship enters Earth and you're introduced to some of the new cast. Hot Rod opens fire on the captured ship while the old-timer Cup gets them to race back to the base on Earth. Perceptor, Ultra Magnus, and Blur defend against the Decepticon attack. Blaster sends out a distress signal to Optimus while RC and Springer move a ballista into position to fire on the invading Decepticons. Around them, numerous deceased Autobots remain. Among them, Windcharger and Wheeljack are notable. The day drags on and the Decepticons get Devastator to rip open the gate, until a second shuttle arrives with Optimus dropping the Dinobots, Autobots designed to resemble dinosaurs, to deal with Devastator. Optimus runs over or shoots many of the Decepticons, before finding Megatron. Both leaders face down in a life or death battle. After some fighting, Megatron is disarmed and is at Prime's mercy. Megatron pleaded for mercy while reaching for a blaster. Hot Rod tried to stop him, only to be taken hostage and used as a shield to shoot Optimus. Prime smashed Megatron off the building, before collapsing from his wounds. The remaining Decepticons grab the wounded and flee inside of Astrotrain, who transformed from a train into a ship and took them back to Cybertron. For the Autobots, they tried to save Optimus, but the wounds were too severe. He gave his last statement before passing the matrix of leadership. It falls from his dying grasp. Hot Rod catches it before handing it to the new Autobots leader, Ultra Magnus. Then we see Optimus die, color fading until his light is extinguished. This movie was rated G and was intended for children to watch. On Astrotrain, the injured Decepticons are thrown into space so the mostly intact survivors have enough fuel to make it back to Cybertron. Among them was the former leader Megatron. Eventually they float into the path of the World Eater. In exchange for new bodies, they must serve him and destroy the matrix of leadership, which was in Ultra Magnus' grasp. Megatron becomes Galvatron and he reclaims the Decepticons by disintegrating their new leader Starscream, before heading to Earth to kill off the Autobots. Meanwhile, Unicron flies to Cybertron and devours the two Autobot moon bases. The Autobots we see flee Earth on two ships. One ship is shot up and forced to crash on a water world, while the other is forced to sacrifice 3/4 of the ship and crash on the junk planet. The survivors on the water world are brought to a prison where they await their rigged trial. Guilty or innocent, the victim is dropped into a pit of robotic transformer piranhas by the quintessence. Spare me this mockery of justice. The survivors of the junk planet are first attacked by the Decepticons with Ultra Magnus being blown to pieces and the Matrix stolen, while the native Junkians watched. Hot Rod and Cup are dropped into the pit where they desperately fight for their lives. The Dinobots soon break down the door and take control, sending the ravenous robots after their former masters. They steal the Quintessence ship and head to try and find the missing ship of Autobots. The Junkians of the planet attack the trespassing Autobots. They are practically immortal as they are able to reassemble themselves. The other ship lands and uses the universal greeting of peace. Ba weep gran a weep ni ni bong. The Junkians rebuild Ultra Magnus with their plot convenient paste, and the two groups seek to stop the World Eater, Unicron. Galvatron tries and fails to subjugate Unicron with the Matrix. With this, Unicron decided that Galvatron would witness the extinction of Cybertron. Unicron transforms into a giant robot and lays waste to the planet. Boarding into ships, the Autobots and the Junkians head to Cybertron to stop the monster. The Decepticons of Cybertron desperately defend against the World Eater. The only substantial damage was done when the Autobots flew their ship into his eye. Of the group, Hot Rod is separated from them. In one area, Hot Rod faces down Galvatron, who had the Matrix on a chain around his neck. In the other group, the human boy Daniel finds Autobots and other robots being dissolved slowly in Unicron's acid vats. He barely managed to shoot at the vat lid to close it before Bumblebee, Jazz, Cliffjumper, and their human companion, his father, fell in. Come on Autobot, we all must die sometime. They fight and it looks like Galvatron is going to break Hot Rod, before he grabs the Matrix and ascends to Rodimus Prime. He grabs Galvatron and throws him through Unicron's Eternals, sending them into space. Taking the Matrix and opening it, its raw power starts tearing Unicron apart from the inside. Gathering the Autobots inside, he leads them out before the Titan's body is torn apart. Unicron desperately tries to keep himself together but fails. The movie ends on a happy note, but leaves it open for the third season. Part 3, My Reasoning. As of 2022, 7 Transformers movie exists. The 1986 one, the Michael Bay Pentology, and the Bumblebee movie. My reasoning for the original being the best is because it is the only Transformers movie. The others are just movies with Transformers in them. The first 3 movies are about Sam Witwicky becoming a part of the Autobot and Decepticon war. The last 2 are Kate Yeager being swept up in the remnants of the Autobots in the Decepticon war while external forces join the war. The Bumblebee movie is about Charlie finding an old Volkswagen that's an Autobot and running from the Decepticons that are hunting him down. Notice something? Each of the post-2000 movies are focused on the human characters reacting to the larger war that they are now a part of. The Michael Bay Pentology could be any sci-fi action-adventure movie where a human is involved in an alien war. You could remove the Transformers aspect, and little would be changed. The Bumblebee movie is a drama movie with E.T. mixed with the Predator and a dash of the Iron Giant. A girl finds a scared alien who she needs to protect from the military and the other aliens that are looking for him. The live-action movies are all movies that happen to have the Transformers, instead of movies about the Transformers. They always focus on their human characters and usually give them an Autobot to accompany them, typically Bumblebee. Of the 7 movies with Transformers in the name, only the original is the Transformers movie. The rest are just action or sci-fi movies featuring Transformers. That doesn't mean that the original movie was flawless. In my movie summary, I expressly noted many Autobots that died, while the Decepticons were reformed by Unicron. The reason is because of toy sales. Hasbro likely wanted to remove unprofitable toys and/or make it so children needed to buy a whole new line of toys to play along with the characters. Seasons 3 and 4 are particularly egregious for this, as the majority of the newer characters were introduced in the third and fourth season when compared to the first two seasons. The majority are combining ones, meaning that you need the complete set to enjoy it. Nevertheless, the movie is narratively well done and has a good internal consistency with the show. That's why, in my opinion, the original series is the best, and that's a bad thing. Technology and the resources available are exponentially better than the 1980s, but a studio has yet to recreate the energy of the original. It's sad that the best Transformers movie, not the highest grossing film but the best, is the first one released. Hopefully they release a movie that's about the Transformers that rekindles that energy that the first one had. But that's just my opinion. What do you think?